No, you can't beat Payday 3 without committing a crime. A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. Unlike Payday 2, there's not a single crime-free option, as every heist in the game has a clear loot objective as of August 2025. And Payday is a game about stealing things, so you're unsurprisingly going to have to break some eggs to make an omelette. But that does beg the question, how few crimes can you commit whilst completing every heist in the game? When compared to Payday 2, 3 actually provides us with a far more robust social stealth system, enabling us to reduce the number of years we'll need to spend behind bars if ever caught in the act. So today we ask, can you beat Payday 3 Baby Driver style, serving such a short jail sentence that Lily James will still be waiting for you upon release? To track my performance, I've put together a list of potential crimes, ranging from thievery of different valuables to outright murder, with everything in between such as criminal damage or hostage taking accounted for via a definitely not arbitrary point scoring system. My vague objective was to give each criminal act a score based on likely jail sentence in yearly increments, starting at 1 year for comparatively petty theft up to 50k, increasing by a year for every additional 50k on top of that, meaning we're looking at a 2-year sentence for 100k and so on. In addition to that, more discrete crimes such as assault and criminal damage, which are fairly obvious, will receive 1-year penalties for each incident. Hostage taking is worthy of at least 2 years. By all accounts it's a life sentence in many situations, but since we won't be holding hostages for more than 10 minutes at a time, I'm going to be lenient, even allowing myself to remove 1 year from any sentence by trading them back to the police. Breaking and entering also has some complexity to it. I've decided it requires 2 things to be true to go down for a 1-year extended sentence. 1, you must be breaching some form of intentional security, unlocked doors will not count, and 2, you must be entering into a secure area from a private or public one. Seeing as security doesn't consider you being in a private area arrest-worthy, I don't think we should for this experiment. And to avoid just adding dozens of breaking and entering charges one after another, we'll only be charged for the initial breach, so any additional breaches, such as opening up vaults, will count under the same 1-year sentence. If there's no wall between a private and secure area where we go on to steal loot, as in Turbid Station for example, we will instead be automatically charged with a 1-year trespass. Finally, we have a few very specific high-cost crimes to look out for, such as production of narcotics, prison breaking, and of course murder, with the highest overall estimated sentence of 20 years. Additionally, any heist that involves transporting drugs will receive a 2-year bonus penalty, just considering how drug crime is generally litigated against. My objective in this run should be obvious. I need to score as low a point tally as possible, golf style, on every single heist I play, avoiding major crimes at all costs, and just committing to the baby crimes of, armed assault and grand larceny to clear the heist. I'll also be turning off my partners in crime via a mod to avoid any charges by association. Obviously, in order to do that, I will need to play on normal difficulty to limit the required loot, meaning this is also Payday 3 while stealing as little as possible. The skill involved in this challenge, if you can even call it that, is more catered around bending the game's mechanics in my favour. That all said, let's head into No Rest for the Wicked for my first foray into becoming a low-stakes shoplifter. Here the choice is between committing actual arson by burning through the floor of the building with thermite, or potentially damaging some locks in stealth. To keep those Baby Driver dreams of an early release intact, I know which route I'm going down, even using a favour to have the keycard lying around just in case I get in trouble for pinching someone's arse whilst pickpocketing a copy. Unfortunately, using said red keycard has to come with some penalty as we break into a secure zone from a private one, intentionally breaching its security defences, enough to earn me a necessary breaking and entering demerit, the first of this run. In terms of actually turning the vault gate power off, I'm not sure where I fall. It's entirely possible to have just accidentally leant on that nice green switch after incidentally unhasping its bolts, so I think it is defensible enough to not carry any criminal penalty. However, wandering into the vault area itself afterwards feels rightly punishable. From here, I'm just hoping this is second monitor content, and for anyone who just tabbed in to see what I'm talking about, I appreciate you. You see, to avoid assaulting one of the bank executives scattered around the heist, I'll need to simply guess the keycode order from the 3 digits I've been presented with, potentially typing up to 36 combinations in the process. A fairly tedious one at that, but one I'm glad the devs made possible, although I was surprised they still send a civ to check on you on normal, resulting in them calling bank security, who came right in with the cuffs. Fortunately, glitch protocol works like Men in Black's neuralizer, as their radio going off totally scrambles their brains and makes them forget the criminal in front of them. The bank might be on high alert, but untraceable crimes such as phone and camera hacking or ECM jamming come with no additional penalties, allowing me to proceed with the guessing game process, finding the correct order on try 13, presenting me with yet another issue in the vault. Whilst I have no interest in stealing more than the 3 clean bags required to escape, if I let the die packs explode on any of the other bundles, that's surely criminal damage, meaning I need to use a jammer to disarm all 8 solo. Easily done, and since I'm still mask off at this stage, it's easy enough to just waltz out of the bank with the 3 gym bags I usually carry around with me, no questions asked. That 99k payout is just enough to fall below the 2-year threshold, meaning this crime is only worth another year of hypothetical jail time, coming to a total of 3 years for this street thug level crime. Unfortunately, Road Rage presents me with a completely different beast of a challenge. Not only is this heist loud only, complicating matters, many of its key objectives involve direct crimes. Messing around on a building site just about gets a pass, but EMPing the electric armoured transport, which we'll later need to drill into, absolutely doesn't. I'm pretty sure GenSec would call that criminal damage. Not to mention the bloke that's canonically inside and trained to do nothing. If that isn't an untraceable hostage, I don't know what is, giving us 3 years right off the bat. Problem 2 is the loud element. Specials spawn across all difficulties in this game, meaning tasers can instantly end an attempt unless I blow up their charge packs, which is assault at a minimum. The only solution, outside of just cheesing their god-awful AI, is the tactical use of a human shield, a second hostage, albeit temporary one to keep the cops at bay, and a taser stun gun in his pocket. Whilst I'm not risking shooting for the old combat reload solid combo, I do have access to a slightly weaker version of the endless hostage strategy at my disposal, using Balanced in the escapist skill line to use up Rush to immediately absorb Stagger, whilst using CQC Specialist to refresh that Rush every time I re-grab the poor traumatized fella. I might even have the first ever use of the slide tackle skill captured live on camera. It's all a little buggy, but the stagger reduction window is massive, totally stumping almost every cop on the map. I say almost because once the van has been escorted about 50% of the way to the ramp, cloakers start to spawn in. These guys do not care about hostages and will kick directly through their solar plexus to get to yours. Case in point, I sadly need to burn disengage here and do the unthinkable, pop that cloaker in his juicy head. I know I called the Model 11 terrible recently. I'm intentionally using the worst weapons in the game in my opinion to lower my threat factor, but even it is capable of ending a cloaker's life. Whilst these sadistic subhumans might have a rough reputation even amongst their colleagues, I'm still more than likely going to have to eat that 20-year sentence if ever caught, and with no way to outrun them outside of managing to somehow bug them out, this is forced. Still, we move on burdened by that crime, having to seriously bunker down at the ramp. Honestly, how this civ doesn't catch a stray I will never know, but his protection was more than sufficient to reach another lull in the assault and trade him for a marginal reduction of that impending life sentence. You see, the second problem with cloakers is that they do not respect assault timing, as despite this one being dumbfounded by the idea of elevated ground, I was forced to take another life, needing to speed through the looting process and avoid a third spawning in. Payday 3's buggiest location provided some sanctuary in achieving that, as snipers on normal remain utterly hopeless, enabling me to secure a total of 4 bags of rare metals for use in modern technology before sprinting my way over to the escape. No way am I adding another year for cutting this plastic wrapping, by the way. For whatever reason, I had a brain fade at the start of this heist, forgetting the entire concept behind this run and stealing over 7k in loose cash, bringing us up from a base total of 350 grand stolen, but seeing as that's not enough to earn me another year in the slammer, I won't be stressing it too much. I'll have enough on my plate already if I'm ever caught, as that single loud heist has cost me 50 years, probably about par for the double cloaker homicide. I'm hoping for some squeaky clean clears from the next few heists to get my karmic debt back in order, with Dirty Ice offering an immediate conundrum to the aspiring low-stakes thief. I can of course clear the heist by only ever securing 3 bags. Head into the rear of the building for a spare QR code, break into the secure jewelry room and again into the basement to turn off the alarms, and grab a red keycard before assaulting this employee to open the rare stones vault, securing it and 2 other bags from the more exclusive range to clear this one with just a few crimes committed. Great if you were judging this on a buy bag, not buy value basis for each crime, but with the current rule set, as daft as it might be, the optimal approach is to clear most of the display cabinets whilst in plain view of everyone in the building thanks to the disbelief suspending grifter skill line. With Rush active, I can open every one of these bad boys up and only the security has the nous to do anything about it. Hell, these punters will stare longingly at empty cabinets all day if left to their own devices, clearly any excuse to not buy that engagement ring. Anyway, you can even optimize this process even further, stealing just 7 bags of loot and taking most of the loose jewelry from inside the poorly guarded front of the store, summing to a total of just over $58,000, undercutting the other option by $6,000 and avoiding all that nasty hostage taking business entirely for a crime worthy of just a single year. Honestly, I imagine the police will be more interested in how we pulled this off, rather than handing out punishment for it. Anyway, Rock the Cradle is next, another really interesting conundrum. In Stealth, the undoubtedly lower chaos approach, we need to steal the crypto wallet, worth much more than the potential loot requirement if we choose to instead go for their vault in Loud. As such, it's a tricky value judgment between stealing $250,000 in digital assets and potentially risking capping another cloaker. In either case, you're going to want to enter the basement stealthily, staying in casing mode, and taking a copy of a VIP pass to trick the bouncers, something that will require you to break and enter into Rifkin's office. But the difference is, if you're going to steal the crypto wallet in stealth, you'll need to break into 2 more secure locations in order to trick the club's accountant to open the storage vault, before yoinking the thing from out in front of him. If you instead go after the cash vault, you'll only need to break into that side of the club, getting caught and the cops called on you to activate these standard escape procedures by airlift. With the vault already open, you can comfortably secure 8 non-drug objective bags of loot before the likes of the cloakers get the chance to spawn in, needing to do just a little criminal damage to the skylight to activate the escape. Yes, it's a hell of a lot more chaotic, but it'll reduce your take by $50,000, a whole year in the slammer as far as this rule set is concerned. On Under the Surface, the dominant approach is obvious though. Stealth is the only way to go on this one, at least for as long as possible. Casing mode is sadly not a tool we can use to our advantage here, instead masking up and breaking and entering directly into a loot room through a vent. Even on normal, this heist is still unbelievably well trafficked by guards, making it a little tricky to stay undetected at times. Alongside standing in circles, every Payday 3 player's favourite pastime, we need to access both the manager's office for the USB and the storage room for the scanner, pivotally avoiding any run-ins with said manager as we don't want a hostage situation. Fortunately, this guy is also an idiot. You can full on body check him and he'll assume it was just the wind, meaning the only true foe I faced was the camera operator, who I also need to leave alive. With both the top and bottom floors of the art gallery wide open, securing the first 2 paintings was easy, before tripping into a laser wire when getting my hands on the second Vicario painting. With the alarms going off, to my utter dismay, this cop shot out the glass covering the already blood-spattered painting. I refuse to take the rap for this criminal damage. That security guard's serving a year as far as I'm concerned, as even though there's bullets flying my way, I don't actually need to commit any additional crimes to escape so long as I can outpace the cloaker spawns. The final key to blowing my max earnings on this heist is to scan the paintings upstairs and only use my USB stick to pick up the fake one, making sure the surphaze art gallery gets to hang on to its precious Ledette painting. Escaping from Biles' chopper, any unauthorized flight charges are his problem, not mine. Despite intentionally cocking up on the heist, with just the 3 paintings stolen, we still rake in a massive $350,000, pretty much a max theft sentence of 7 years, adding to a total of 8 for the initial break-in. More of the same on Golden Shark. I know I'm going to have to eat a couple of break-in charges here. Whilst all the working areas near the tellers are private, allowing me to actually work out which room holds the red keycard, the loan officer's office is secure, taking that hit and making sure he doesn't notice me fumbling around his drawers to avoid another potential hostage situation. With the red keycard, I'm free to head upstairs, which is still a private area. To avoid any extra break-ins though, I'm going to again need to bash my head against this keypad until the right combination is miraculously hit. No one bothers to check this one though, making for a much smoother process. After breaking into the vault room, it's just a case of happening to flip 4 correctly coloured switchboards, never tell me the odds, and happening upon a blue keycard found on a manager's waistband. Since this is used to open the head office, another secure location, I won't be double charging for this crime, but that does make a total of 3 separate break-ins across this heist. Fortunately, the actual looting process remains incidentally crime-free, as I simply carry my gym bags back and forth across the lobby and into the open garage. With 7 bags of cash in addition to the Shark server, escape is all but guaranteed, needing to poke around for just $2,651 in loose change to push us over the escape threshold, making it out of this one with $367,651. A fair chunk of change, worthy of a total of 10 years for this surprisingly peaceful bank heist. Playing 99 boxes should really get you, the player, sent down for life, never mind your fictional heister, so the stakes are higher than ever before. Grabbing the QR codes outside the warehouse is easy work, especially bearing in mind just wandering around here doesn't constitute a crime. The same goes for the rest of the central warehouse, as it's still a private area, despite encouraging me to mask up. Now, I'm sure ziplining into a private storage yard is a crime, and seeing as the area is gated off, it will be going down as the most elaborate form of breaking and entering possible. Opening the actual crates, on the other hand, is fair game, no damage done, and again, we've already committed the crime of being inside the secure zone. Standing in circles for 20 seconds at a time is a crime against my attention span, but won't add any jail time. Funnily enough, once the inner gate is open, and I have my hands on the Wixia special sauce, the key is to actually be as slow as possible in securing it, allowing it to fully degrade to reduce its value to a minimum. Lather, rinse and repeat, and you'll be well on your way to silently clearing one of the most crime-free heists in the game. That's until you realise these components are apparently worth 400 grand even at their most impotent, a potentially massive 9-year sentence, all things considered. Ah well, Touch the Sky is surely a less financially lucrative heist, bearing in mind we're basically doing it just to steal intel on Concord & Co. We avoid criminal damage upon entry by nicely unscrewing the vent covers, but that's still textbook breaking and entering. More circle standing ensues, as they were really running out of ideas when filling up the launch roster of heists. Chucking a knife to distract the lead security is fair game to grab his QR code, granting me access to the red keycard storage room, which for some strange reason is considered secure, whilst the corridor it's attached to is just private. I'm not sure this should constitute breaking and entering, especially since RNG could dictate this room spawning attached to a secure zone, meaning just this once, I'm gonna be a lenient judge and say I've already been hit with the appropriate 1-year punishment for this crime. I mean, I have to go through it anyway, again needing to guess a keypad code to make it inside the vault without first taking Mason Laurent hostage. Once inside, and with his SSD in hand, it's just a case of decrypting it back at his office and escaping through the front door for yet another ghost clearance. The only problem is, this thing was apparently worth 350 grand to the gang, value that's landing me with 7 additional years according to the rules. Turbid Station is next, a stealth-only heist, making the approach fairly self-explanatory. Whilst the train yard is open, with not much stopping you from wandering inside, I am pretty sure this would be considered a major trespass, so I'm taking 1 year up front for that. As for the trains, 3 of them are fine, just needing a keycard, QR code or external drive to enter. The 4th is a problem though, needing either a hostage, or worse, a dead hostage, to solve. And of course I immediately found the satellite in that train cart on the first attempt. Running it back, I was lucky enough to locate the parts in a QR and hard drive locked carriage. Unfortunately, and what's probably the worst change to this heist since coming over to Payday 3, since my hack was spotted for a brief moment, I will need to deal with patrolling security for the rest of the heist, but that's hardly a crime worthy of actual punishment. After cozying up to the foreman to hack his phone, I was pretty much home free, fortunately not needing to intimidate or assault anyone to get my hands on that second satellite prototype and escape by van. That's 224k worth of components though, landing me with a 5-year sentence for this one. Cookoff is the heist I've been fearing the most ever since that disaster that was Road Rage. It's another loud-only heist, meaning once again I will be facing down cloakers at some point. Not to mention, since we require at least 3 bags of meth to clear this one, I'm eating a 10-year sentence straight up just for doing a little cooking on site. With the bonus hostage favour though, I can at least win back some credit with the cops, trading their hostages back to them for a plea deal. Of course, I'll also be taking 5 additional hostages of my own, as these cops are too useful not to have around for the time being. Again, staving off the dreaded tasers and making most SWAT even more useless than usual upon entering my great hotbox. As for the cooking, I need to do this as quickly as possible, whilst also burning every batch to a crisp in an attempt to lower its market value. I'm not sure if it would actually make a jot of difference to my sentencing if I happen to be a bad meth cuck, but within this rule set, it is key. The problem is, the longer I hang around waiting for it to burn, the more likely I am to run into these guys. A cloaker once again ruining my perfectly laid plans, taking both disengage and a bullet to the brain. 20 additional years before I can reunite with my childhood sweetheart. However, I take no criminal responsibility for any emotional or physical damage done to this poor dude glitching through the wall. To make matters worse, the techie stun drone was repeatedly preventing me from activating Rush, meaning the usual body shield strats were all but out the window. In the melee, I managed to take an extra hostage by accident, meaning even after trading all 11 on the map, I was still in some serious karmic debt, with the cops sending a second cloaker after me right after finishing my third cuck of the heist, who I was unable to outrun, being forced to put him down too. At least the snipers were merciful, pulling out pistols and just staring at me instead of doing basically anything else. Thanks lads, you're keeping my conscience just about intact, even with another haul of upwards of 120,000 heading towards my bank account once again. These 2 bonus years for loot value are a drop in the ocean though, compared to the 40 I'll need to serve for cloaker murder, in addition to 10 for producing narcotics, and 2 more for stealing drugs. Even with 11 hostage trades acting as mitigating evidence, despite my peaceful intentions, that's a massive 55 years built up on this heist alone. Diamond District is at least an opportunity to set the record straight. With the inside man favour automatically opening the vault door with the rare gem inside, I can take break-ins off the table entirely. By simply stealing shopfront jewellery that I can then clean, I'm free to escape with just 2 bags of jewellery coming to a total of 70k, the lowest crime score so far of just 1. But we can do even better using the dirty ice approach. With not a single bag secured, we can scrounge all the way to the escape target with just loose loot, making $31,569 and perplexing every single shopper in the district. That's still a year in terms of score, but it's a massive saving in terms of total loot taken. First World Bank next, another heist that is massively assisted by sharing the crimes with an inside man. By getting a visitor pass dropped in the insider's office, I'm free to pass through the entire first section of the heist without question. No breaking and entering, just a few of the usual stealth objectives that don't come with additional sentencing. Once into the private rear section of the bank, despite the secure barrier not being at the door, I'm not sure I can escape a year for trespassing. Definitely not after being spotted hacking the computer that opens up the main vault. Once again, Glitch Protocol saves the day as this guard forgets his one purpose in life, but that does make escaping after filling the money carts with 4 bags worth of cash a little trickier. In fact, the search protocol results in this guy getting stuck on the wrong side of this usually locked door as I follow his pathing all the way through the entire tunnel section and straight out of bounds. For all we know, he's still walking in search of a way back to his post to this day, but I refuse to have missing person on my conscience as well. I'm already having to deal with an additional 6 years after stealing 4 bundles of cash that is apparently worth 250k on top of the initial trespass. Party powder is the final side job, and as the name suggests, unless we're talking about icing sugar, I'm doomed to be dealing with the drug trade. At least cooking up a batch is entirely optional. Instead, I again prioritise stealing the loose loot left around the heist, breaking into 2 warehouses to do so. Strangely though, this entire heist is considered a secure zone, meaning I only need to serve the single year for the initial unavoidable trespass. In terms of loot, 3 bags is all I need, 1 cash and 2 coke, with the remaining goods needed to reach the escape threshold scavenged from whatever little baggies I can find. It's not possible to clear this one without stealing any drugs, as there's only a couple of cash bags left around the heist, meaning that 2-year penalty is baked in. But in terms of actual value stolen, it's just over 118 grand, kept in check by smart loot selection, a 5-year max, drugs and all. Moving on to the DLC campaign, as much as I'm loath to admit it, the Bad Apple heists are some of the best in the entire game, at least when played normally. Not when doing whatever the hell this is, guessing codes one by one after climbing through the vent system to avoid the extra breaking and entering charge for lockpicking the upstairs office. With a bit of luck and another breaking and entering write-up, I'm able to make my way inside, moving around the server room with relative ease, doing everything I can to avoid tripping into the civilians around the heist. Unfortunately, up in the Sin's control room, I managed to get stuck on this banister, resulting in this worker spotting me in the act, Looney Tunes style, needing to unfortunately intimidate him at gunpoint. With complete control over this room though, I was able to open up all paths on command, searching through every server and eventually uploading the drone data this heist requires, leaving all the bonus data inside a side vent for the cops to discover at a later date. Unlike in Loud, Sins is also unharmed, so no criminal damage charges heading my way. Rather than simply fleeing this one, after sending the data up the lift shaft, I remembered to head up to the control room and free that terrified worker, turning this from a hostage situation into a simple case of assault, saving me a year on the score before fleeing back to the van. Sadly, that drone data is valuable, 300k worth of expense, costing me an extra 6 potential years. Now, I imagine messing around a police station might come with its own uniquely brutal charges, but seeing as I'm not sure there's a precedent set for that, Boys in Blue is fair game for this run. Fake calls leave the station half abandoned, and after setting up the donut box and the canteen, I have almost a free run of the building. Also, whilst these offices are secure, at least on normal, no one bothered locking them, so no breaking and entering this time around until it comes to sliding our way into the locker rooms to steal the red keycard. I perform a section breach at the vault entrance, again needing to hack open a secure door, but from there we're pretty much home free, moving just 3 bags of gold back through the open Brooklyn streets, clearing this heist whilst remaining in casing mode. Gold's expensive though, coming to a total of $156,000 stolen, an additional 3 years on top of the 2 major break-ins performed. Onto a rather controversial heist. Without a massive history of prosecuting breakout attempts to go off, I have no idea how to litigate against a heist like Houston Breakout, which consists purely of pulling off potentially the most brazen prison break in history at a bloody courtroom of all places. But I'll do my best. The initial stages of this heist are totally innocuous. Fall on a few more coloured switches to turn off the metal detectors and pick up the press passes found downstairs to give me access to normally private areas. This enables me to enter the secure jury room with a QR code inside without breaking in, circumventing that crime waiting to happen. Unfortunately, seeing as they don't let press in the judge's chambers, getting into here will require a little breaking and entering, cracking open his safe to get the information required to adjourn the trial. Crossing over to the clerk's office, a second break-in is required to access the affairee's desktop and blackmail the judge. Now, blackmail is a crime in and of itself, but seeing it's all Shade's handiwork, I'm going to keep my head down and pretend I heard nothing. Back on track, the keycard to the physical evidence room happens to be down in the prison cells on this run, which is strangely unlocked and immediately accessible, although the evidence room is certainly not, racking up a 3rd year just for moving about this heist. Now, taking the evidence itself is a bit of an odd one. The first bag I scanned didn't belong to Franklin Steele, so I returned it to the shelf where it came from before locating Houston's. Now, for gameplay purposes, this bag does have value. I don't know, maybe Houston pays us for stealing it back. But for the sake of this challenge, I'm going to roll up this stealing of evidence in the actual breakout crime, which comes next. I could have also burned the evidence, but I feel like that's a more extreme crime with wider implications, so best avoided. With Houston back in his holding cell, it's easy enough to hit security with the old never fails donut distraction and press a single button to get him moving, opening the gate for Twitch to drive into the basement parking lot by hacking the guard on duty's phone to avoid doing any damage to the wiring outside. From there, escape is all but secured with Houston in tow. The gang earns 100k just for stealing back the incriminating evidence, which is 2 points on its own, but I'm adding a further 3 for the breakout assistance in and of itself, totaling to 8 years for this successful heist. A fair few for just a little aiding and abetting. Which brings us on to the final true heist of this challenge, Fear and Greed, a full-on attack on the US stock market. Again, favours are key, as starting a mass inside the entrance is a massive advantage here, enabling me to move freely around most of the trading floor. For once, I won't be able to smash my way into the broker's office, meaning I need to locate an RFID tag early and destroy the silent alarm, something I forgot was even a thing that comes with a criminal damage penalty. However, with Concord stock shorted and immediate access to the transfer control room, massless, I was free to move around this room unquestioned thanks to Grifter, meaning no hostages required to start deactivating the circuit breakers as quickly as possible. The reason being that the longer I take, the more value we'll rip from the market, meaning I need to go fast to avoid too good a heist. Setting up the EMP as soon as it's available, and masking up to prevent the stocks from crashing any further than they already have. Spotted my way to the lift shaft out, I'd already done everything in my power to lower the value of my crime, making it to the waiting buyer with 20 seconds left on the escape clock, clearing fear and greed and taking the customary dive to Wall Street to repent for my many sins. Despite my best efforts, this still led to stealing a massive $459,467 from this market manipulation, landing me with a chunky 9-year sentence for my efforts, on top of the breaking and entering, as well as criminal damage charges I've racked up in the process. Sadly, this isn't where the crime spree ends for us, as we still have these smash and grabs to complete. Bank withdrawal sees us return to SCB for an ultra truncated hit, a single red keycard is required on normal to access the secure vault, breaking and entering a single time before walking out there with 4 bags minimum for a total loot value of 40k, proving that every cash bundle is valued completely arbitrarily, as that's less than half the value stolen on no rest with 1 additional bag, racking up 2 years for this bite-sized heist. Returning to the Boys in Blue station for search and seizure, we start in a secure parking lot, racking up a trespass point immediately before ripping these impounded vehicles apart for the party powder inside. Despite only stealing 39k worth in 6 full bags, as this is a drug-related crime, we need to take those bonus 2 years on the chin unfortunately, for a total of 4 years onto the final tally. This in mind, our final score for the entire playthrough of every heist Payday 3 has to offer, as innocently as I can muster, is a whopping 197 years behind bars for what is a comparatively measly take of just under $4 million. If I were in the Payday gang at that rate of risk-reward, I reckon I'd just be putting my savings into a mutual fund. Now, admittedly, without the cloak of murder, we'd be looking at just 119 years, but that's still a fair few life sentences for poor Dallas, who's already pushing bloody 60 years old by the time the events of Payday 3 occur. That's not even mentioning the additional charges I've intentionally not factored in for things like aggravated and armed theft, endangering a police officer, resisting arrest, and intent to steal. I mean, I guess for a spree of its length and audacity, less than 200 years might be relatively good going, all things considered. Anyway, I'm more than aware this was a daft concept, and I'm happy to reassure you my day job has nothing to do with law enforcement or legality. In all seriousness, I hope you enjoyed the concept. I had fun with it as it forced me to interact with a bunch of Payday 3 mechanics I'd almost forgotten existed. Despite its easy relative difficulty as far as challenges go, there is still some source in Payday 3's stealth innovations, even if being led out of fenced off areas time and time again whilst carrying heaps and heaps of cash in your bag seems a little bit silly. Let me know if you can beat any of these heists with even less cash stolen. Oh, and I look forward to your submissions in completing Payday 3 with as many crimes as possible. I saw someone enter triple figures for civs killed on one heist, so I'm sure you've got it in you to break some records. Thank you so much for watching this video, take care, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care, I'll see you all soon.